Good evening, everyone. Come on in, come on in. This is your episode of Think About It Live, and this is going to be a great one. We have a special guest with us tonight. So I just want to start off by thanking everyone that pops in, that shares your time with us. And I want to thank those that are going to watch the broadcast later. So either way, thank you for your time. I'm LaWanda DeShazer with Think About It. So we're going to just hop right on in there. And Jenna, I want to thank you for being on the show tonight, but I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you. Well, first of all, LaWanda, I am so honored to be on your show. I'm a huge fan. You are the kind of strong and entrepreneurial Black woman that I feel like drives the engine of our country. It has been such a pleasure getting to know you, and it's just an honor for you to ask me to be on the show. So just a brief introduction. I am so honored and privileged to be the Democratic nominee for Secretary of State here in Kansas. I am the first ever African-American Latina woman to receive a statewide nomination for office in the 161-year history of our state. So I'm very, very honored about that. But as I keep saying to people, I am the first, but I will not be the last. And I hope as we get to share some time today, I'll be able to say to people, please don't vote for me because of the history, vote for me because we have a shared value. And I'm very excited to be able to talk about what those are.
Thank you. Thank you. And likewise, I am honored to have met you. I've seen you in a couple of spaces before, and I like what you stand for. And you're already going to get my vote. And I've heard what you stand for, and those are the things that are meaningful to me as well. Democracy is everything, but I'm gonna let you talk about that. So let's jump right on in here. So you are the first African American Latino woman to run, right, for such a prestigious office. So first, tell people, what does the Secretary of State actually do?
That is such a great question. Thank you. Well, there's really two purposes in the state of Kansas. Across the country, most Secretary of States are responsible for elections. We are the ones that secure and certify and help execute elections. And then in Kansas, we also are the business registry. We are the business repository for people to be able to come in and register for a business. We also, if you were to get a birth certificate or a marriage license or a divorce decree, you'd see the seal of the Secretary of State. So trademarks and licensures, but also if you want to register a business or you need to do filings, all of that is housed under the Secretary of State. But really, I would say the meat and potatoes of what the Secretary does is really making sure that we have safe and secure elections and that every legal eligible Kansan gets to cast a ballot. And then we certify those elections.
Okay, I think that's really important. I'm going to say the last, maybe Obama served 2 terms. So I'm going to say the last, 12 years? About last 14, almost 15 years, this whole voter fraud thing has been really, really prevalent, or at least the concept or the mindset of it. And every article I read, every fact check I read, voter fraud is at a minimum level, if it happens at all, right? And the state of Kansas, our elections are pretty much, I think, 100% on par.
You are 100% right on that. We have done over 300 audits since the 2020 election, and our votes in Kansas are very secure. We have found zero evidence of fraud and very minimal evidence that any votes were miscounted. Now, unfortunately, there have been a couple of instances, but in general, in Kansas, we have safe and secure elections, and we have processes in place to guarantee that. Now, I will say that, having said that, I think our current incumbent Secretary of State, there's some things that he's played a little fast and loose with that have helped create that space for people to doubt. And that's something that won't happen when I'm the Secretary of State. So we can there's processes that we can tighten up and most definitely have some transparency. And I think that'll help alleviate some of the people who've elevated concerns about that. But in general, yes, we are cast your ballot. It is safe. It is secure in Kansas.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Tell us what got you interested, because this is your first time running for an office, correct? And you went there to the state level, and I'm with you on that. So tell us what got you there. You know, what motivated you?
Well, thank you so much. I will tell you, I've raised my children. I mean, you never stop raising your kids, to be clear. But when my baby went away to college this fall, I actually knew I would always go into public service. And running for political office was a part of my long-term goal. It is now a part of my second chapter. You know, as moms and mothers, as women, we get wonderful chapters in our lives. And I knew this would be my next chapter. But the why behind that is my parents. My father is a Vietnam veteran. He was a helicopter pilot. He was one of 70 African-American Latino men brought into that program. He was the only one that graduated, served in Vietnam, and then was a law enforcement officer. And my mom was a civil rights activist who spent her life as a pastor. And those two great Americans told my brothers and I it was our responsibility to give back to our country. Yes. It was not for us to just take and participate. It was for us to actively engage. And so I've always known I would go into public service. Now, the Secretary of State's office, very specifically, after I heard former President Donald Trump get on the phone and ask a gentleman for 11,780 votes, he was speaking to the Secretary of State of Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, who said, no, sir, we don't have those. I knew that with the attacks on our democracy, the doubt that people had about the safety and sanctity of our democracy, that this was the office that I needed to step into or offer myself into. And so that's why I've chosen this role.
And that's such an important role, because the voting is the basis of everything that we do in America, everything. And I tell people that, you know, we need better this and we need better that. And then I'm like, well, do you vote? Well, no, voting gets you nowhere. I'm like, no, voting is the baseline for everything. And so to hear a candidate that first time out the box wanting to serve is to protect the vote, that's amazing. And that means an awful lot, an awful lot. Thank you. With the civil rights background, like my kids, sometimes they're like, oh, mom, not again. Not again. Not another story. Mom. But it sounds like the stories that your mom told you actually stuck with you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I will tell you, I having gotten to know you, I know what a great mom you are. Those stories are sticking to you. Let me encourage you. Those stories are getting through. As moms, we never know for sure if they're hearing us, but they do. They do. But yeah, steps, absolutely. My mom was on us all the time, my brothers and I, not to get comfortable. There was a passion about the way she would say it to us with some heat and urgency. And she'd say, you guys are getting too comfortable. And what she meant by that was that we were getting to a place where we were feeling a little bit, I think, taking for granted these freedoms that other people had fought for us. And she was very concerned about that. And as she was watching the change in what was going on in the demeanor of the country, she was very concerned about it going backwards. And so that's what she was talking about with us.
And, you know, when you talk about going backwards, and I'm just going to kind of just stick with this voting thing a little bit more, you know, the John Lewis Act. So technically, the right to vote comes up in Congress every few years. It's really not like secure like it should be. And so that's why I think that, because it's not where it should be, you know, on the books, but it should be in our minds.
That's right.
Right? It should be in our minds. So what do you do to encourage people to vote? Like I say, I've heard people say, it doesn't matter. What do you say?
Well, and I will say to you, in a state like Kansas, where former President Trump won the state even in 2020 by 15 points, I understand in a presidential election how you can start to feel like, well, what difference does it make if I vote? The Republicans are going to vote for whom they want. But I will say to you, when your voice is heard, your vote is your voice. And people say that it's not a cliche. It is the truth. If you are not voting, who is voting instead of you? Who is speaking for you? And what are they saying? And even if you are in the minority party in a state like Kansas, as many votes as we cast, all of a sudden it makes people have to hear you. As I will just speak very, very vulnerably and honestly, as an African-American woman, if I only ever take on fights I know I'm guaranteed to win, I won't ever move forward. We have to do that. So even if, the Republican Party will put their nominee up, and that person may win, or the person you vote for doesn't win, it doesn't mean your vote doesn't count. And down ballot at the state level, for your state local congressperson and your local senators and your civic, your mayors and your council members and your county chairs. These are people who directly affect your life on a day-to-day basis. So yes, your vote does count and your vote does matter. Whether or not Kansas will send our electoral votes to the president you voted for, up and down the ballot, there are places where your vote matters and your voice matters. It has to be heard. And again, even if the person you vote for president doesn't win, I think it stays there, because we just got to we have to lose closer, because every time you lose closer, you're getting a step to that win. Right. And that is what's happening in Kansas, by the way. We are getting closer and closer. But on these local levels and down ballot races, you must get out and vote.
Right. And I'm with you on that. We have to vote. Like we all say, and I know you're going to close with it, but your voice is your power, right? If you don't use your power, then you can't complain, or you can. You can complain if you want to. But how can you say, oh, this isn't working if you don't invite yourself to the party?
Right. Absolutely. It's like saying there's no food in the house, but you're not going to go to the store to fix that.
Right. So our elections are how many days away?
Well, I believe we're 24 days away right now. We're
24 days away. And I know you're hitting the pavement.
I am. I'm actually in Dodge City, Kansas right now. So this lovely background is not actually my home. It's a hotel, but I'm thrilled to be here. I've got the privilege, being a statewide candidate, going just east to west, north to south, all over the great state of Kansas. And I will tell you, we live in an awesome state with amazing people. I've never once felt unsafe anywhere in this state. Even when I'm with people who I know are voting differently, who may not vote for me, they're at least listening. I have a chance to listen to them. And what you'll find is everybody wants the same things. We want a safe and secure place where we can raise our kids. We want opportunities. And we love the state of Kansas. And we love our country. I've heard that from everyone.
Yes. So what do you want? So leading up to the elections, what should we be doing as citizens?
Thank you for that. We have got to do the job of promoting democracy, and not just for ourselves. It's one thing to go to the store and buy groceries so you can eat. It's another thing to go to the store and buy enough groceries to feed everyone else, especially when you know the people around you are in need. That's kind of my analogy for democracy right now. We've got to go make sure we are registering people. Registration deadline is October 18th, so we're coming up on it really quickly. Then after that, we need to encourage people to vote. If they want to vote by mail, there's a deadline to put in your application to get that. Then early voting starts, and then vote on voting day. Get out there, make this a celebratory day. And I'm going to speak directly to people of color here. We were not always given the right to vote. There were people, there's a story that's told of the gentleman who voting had just come to his area of the South, and he walked to the precinct place, and they said, you're in the wrong polling place. Send him somewhere else. He walked another 8 miles across town and was told, no, you're in the wrong place. Walked to the third place, and they said, no, actually it's the first place. And by the time he got there, the polling place had closed, and he died before the next election cycle, never having been able to vote. And that's just one story. How many people marched and fought and bled for the right to vote? We don't have the luxury, people of color, not to vote, but all Americans, anything that matters to you. So go vote and go take someone with you. Make it a celebratory day. Go have lunch and go to the polls. Go have breakfast and go to the polls. Go to the polls and then go have dinner. Just go to the polls and take a group with you. Get as many, if every single person would take 5 people with them to the polls, we could increase our voter turnout and we could have a true representative democracy. We've got to all get out and do more. Go call your friends, go register them, tell them to vote early. And if nothing else, get with them and go vote on election day.
Yes, everybody, you got that. If you're not registered, you can go to vote.org and you can check to see if you are registered. If you're not sure, if you've moved, if you've changed your name, you must go and register again, so that you can use that voice that you have. So one of the things that you did talk about, once you're elected, I'm just putting it in the atmosphere. Once you're elected, you talked about a voter holiday, like something that you would lift up. Can you tell the viewers about that?
Well, that's going to require some work of our state legislature, but the office of the Secretary of State, when I am your secretary, I will put the full weight of that office behind giving us a statewide holiday. The John Lewis Voting Rights Act does include a federal holiday, which I am very sad that we still can't get that passed. But there are many, many states that have statewide holidays, and I'm going to push for that. Just like I just said, well, this should be a celebratory day. This should be like the 4th of July.
Yes.
This should be a day where people are doing cookouts and we're going to vote, and then we're hanging out with our friends, and we are all celebrating the greatest part of our democracy. We get to make the rules. Yes. When people talk about government, we're the government. It is of, for, and by the people. It's ours, and we should be celebrating that. And it should be a day that is set aside above all other days to go out and exercise our right to govern ourselves.
Right. And I agree, because sometimes it's difficult when you have to go to work, depending on your hours, depending on where your job is actually located. It's kind of it could be a hassle to go and vote. And I know that Senator Aletha Fausto had, we all do. She's our hero. She's our shero. Yes, yes. And she had put up the bill, which is a law that you can, at least in Sedgwick County, I'm not sure if it's statewide. Is it statewide?
It is a statewide law. Governor Laura Kelly signed it into law 3 years ago. Our current Secretary of State has done everything he possibly can, obstacles and excuses, to make it hard to implement. Sedgwick County has pushed forward in trying to implement it, and it may not fit every single county. It's not a mandate. Counties can choose to use it or not, but it is the law so that people can. And Sedgwick County has been trying really hard to do that. So I will come in and support those efforts, because it should be easy for people to vote when they're leaving work or wherever they're going. And if it's going to take you too long to get to your designated polling place, you should be able to stop and vote anywhere in that county. Right. And that's what the law says. That is the law of Kansas.
That is the law, yes. And, I always tell people, vote provisional if you have to. But how much better would it be if we didn't have to even worry about provisionals? You can just go to any polling place and cast your vote.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I know you're busy. I know you're on that campaign trail. And I just wanted to give people an opportunity to get to know you, get to see your face. We need a billboard. What's it called? You need to tell me what it takes, and I can put the word out. We need a billboard.
Well, I'm going to give you the short and sweet answer. We need money.
I know.
It takes money to buy billboards and television ads. I've been very flattered to hear people say that they're like, oh, we need more people to hear you. Well, I will say two things about that. One, I don't think there's anything particularly special about me. I think what I am speaking into is what we all believe in, which is this great representative republic, and we all love it. We all love democracy. So I'm just the one who's being able to speak into that. But two, when they're saying that, it's because, I'm doing hand-to-hand combat. I am talking to people one-on-one, but boy, it'd be great to be able to get this voice out on television or on radio or in billboards, but that takes money. So if people would go to JennaRepass.com, and it's JennaRepass.com. And quite frankly, even if you misspell it, it'll direct you there. There's a donate now button right there, and every penny counts. Every $5, $10, $50. The max donation for statewide candidates is $2,000. We'll take those too, but literally anything counts. And we are going to push really hard so that those last couple of days and weeks that right before the election, we know people get real engaged. We're trying to make sure that we're able to get the word out there. But we have yard signs. So if you'd like a yard sign, go to info@Jenna and we can make sure you get one. But most importantly, talk to your friends and family. The best advocates are the people you know. I am a big fan of yours. And if you said to me, hey, this is something really important, I would take that to heart. Your endorsement, your recommendation means the world. So if people hear this and can say, hey, here's somebody I believe in, then that would be very, very helpful.
Okay. I need to go and pick up some hand signs, and I'm going to get out I am the precinct chair. Well, precinct committee woman, precinct 118. So I got some more work to do. So I will be going to pick up signs and knocking on doors and doing my civic duty to help get the leaders in place that we need. And I really do think you fit the bill. I want to thank you again for coming on the show. Everyone, register to vote. Register and vote. Don't just register. You got to do both. It's two parts. It's not just one part. It's a two-parter here. So as we close, what do you want to leave the the good people of the state of Kansas with.
Well, thank you so much. I just do want to say I'm a big fan, and I appreciate you so, so much. You are the kind of person that I aspire to be. And I just want to thank you for that. I'm going to end with this. I've kind of talked about my mom, as she was a civil rights activist, and there was two monikers of the civil rights movement. One was, if not now, then when? And if not you, then who? And that was saying that you got to activate. Now is the time for us to activate. But I'm going to leave you with kind of an anecdote my mom would get on us. I said she would always say, you're getting too comfortable. And I said there was passion about that. There was a sense of urgency. Well, I now understand what she was saying. So I pushed back and I said, Mom, isn't that what you all fought for? So that we could be comfortable. And she said, absolutely not. And I want everybody to hear this. She said, we didn't fight for you to be comfortable. We fought and we marched so you'd have equal access, equal rights. Don't you dare get comfortable. What she was saying is, don't take these freedoms for granted. Getting comfortable is like coasting. If you're coasting along, the physics of coasting is that you can never coast up. You've got to put energy and effort if you're going to move forward. If you're coasting, inertia will make you stop, or you can go backwards. And I just want to implore people, when we can't get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed, something that used to be a bipartisan, reinstilling the 1965 Voting Rights Act used to be a bipartisan, now we can't get it done. That's going backwards. When you have legislatures saying you can't give water to people standing in line to vote, that's going backwards.
Yes.
Don't take for granted that we can just coast or that we'll somehow magically go up. We can go backwards. So please put some energy and effort into saving your democracy, and do it for yourself, do it for your neighbors, do it for your children. So that's what I want to leave with. Now is the time, and we are the who.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Remember, November 8th is election day. Everybody get out there and use your voice. Your voice is your power. Thank you, Jenna, and good luck to you. Like I said, I put in the atmosphere. I'm a praying woman. I put in the atmosphere.
We are claiming that, and we are claiming it. Thank you
yes.
again. What a lovely show. I appreciate it. So I will see you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. So remember, this is Think About It, the show that guarantees when you're done, you're going to have something to think about. Bye.